Thanks for listening to the ArtTactic Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Green. One aspect of the art world that may not be as glamorous, but is certainly crucial, is fine art shipping. As an art advisor, I often receive multiple shipping quotes, and I'm astounded by how these quotes can vary sometimes by thousands of dollars. Choosing the right shipper based on the specific route and type of artwork can result in significant savings. Collectors frequently ask me why shipping has become so expensive lately, and more importantly, how to avoid common shipping issues. So in this week's episode of the podcast, we delve into these questions with David Hurwitz, founder and owner of Hangman, and Ty Cooperman, client experience expert at Hangman. We hope you enjoy the conversation. Thanks so much for listening. David and Ty, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Adam. It's really good to be here.
We're very excited.
Definitely. I'm excited to have both of you on. So I'm often getting questions from my clients and other collectors about really several aspects of logistics. Sometimes they're complaining about pricing or the pricing variance at least. Other times they're asking my advice on how to manage a complex shipment, or maybe something's gone wrong and they want to resolve it. So we're excited to have you on to chat about this really somewhat opaque space in the art world. But to begin things, there are many fine art shipping companies out there. Can you share the story behind Hangman, and in your eyes, how do you differentiate yourself from the competition?
Absolutely. Well, the story of Hangman is not a new one, but it is a simple and a good one, is that we just wanted to be the change that we hope to see in the world. And for me, that means putting myself in the shoes of the client and looking at everything through the client experience. And I find that whether it's I'm in a restaurant, or whether I'm in a hotel, or whether I am asking for fine art services myself, I find that the focus always needs to be on the customer. And I get very frustrated in situations, whether it's at the bank or whether dealing with anything in life, where you feel like a number and not a real individual. So the focus for Hangman has been, it started with relationships, and it started with small relationships. And that's where it has always stayed ever since. And surely at the end of the day, we are a service company because we're here to serve you. And one of the dirty little secrets about being a great service company is that it's the most fulfilling and best feeling that you can have in the world. So our mission is to just cultivate meaningful relationships with the people who we work with, and make sure that we're doing our absolute best to serve them and ensure that they have the most positive experience that I myself would want to have if I was in their shoes.
And to elaborate on what David's saying, I think, there are really three pillars of Hangman. The first being our excellent administrative team. The second being the true mastery and decades of experience possessed by our technicians. And the third is the real excellence and strategic design of our systems and software. This is where I really do have to give David a lot of credit and kudos. David is truly a visionary when it comes to thinking through these systems, and we've been able to put something together that really consistently delivers excellent and innovative solutions. We have teams across New York, Los Angeles, and Miami now who all help us fulfill that mission, as David said, to really just provide the ultimate customer experience. That's why we get up in the morning. That's what fuels us.
I mean, all that stuff that Ty is saying should be completely invisible to the client, and all they should feel is like, wow, that was great. That felt good. I had fun. I enjoyed myself, because at the end of the day, what we're doing here in our industry is looking at wondrous, mysterious things that no one can really fully explain, but we can talk all day about them. And I guess it's another way of saying that it's fun, and it should be fun, and every aspect of it should be fun. It should be a positive experience. And so that's what we're trying to do. And in that regard, I don't really compare us that much to other companies, because I don't really think about the other companies that are doing things that are similar to us or providing similar services. I just think about the clients that we work with and what it's like for them to be working with us.
Yeah, and that, what's really nice about us too is that we are a full service solution, which means transportation, packing, installation, you name it, we've got it covered.
So I've had a lot of conversations over the last few years with collectors, galleries, even museum curators about how expensive shipping has become. What are some of the main reasons behind this increase in costs? Are there certain macroeconomic trends contributing to the issue? And how at Hangman have you been able to address these challenges to actually limit rising costs?
Well, I mean, of course, that's on everybody's mind around the world these days. And I think first there is a common thread between galleries and collectors and people in the art world in general, and that's quality. And the concept of quality is whereby cheap is expensive and expensive is cheap. So as a baseline, this is an expensive industry when you get into it, and to do things the right way is very expensive. And, from top to bottom, we do things the right way because we do so many jobs and we're so busy. We have so much work that statistically speaking, there's no room in any of our operations to take any kind of risk. Even a 99.9% success rate is not enough. We need to know that we're doing this the right way 100% of the time. And it takes a lot of resources and time to be able to do that. But that applies across the industry. So that should be the same for everybody who's doing a quality job. So just from a baseline perspective, it's expensive to provide quality, and quality is what everybody in our industry expects. To your second statement, there are macroeconomic influences now that are affecting us all. For instance, insurance has taken such bad hits in the past few years that their appetite for risk is nearly completely gone. In fact, some of the major insurance providers are threatening to move out of the tri-state area completely. Not even leaving us with the option to pay for expensive insurance, leaving us with no option for insurance when it comes to the type of auto insurance we have and other things. So in order to compensate for that risk appetite, the prices have just skyrocketed. And then on top of that, we're dealing with what everybody else has been dealing with, which is increases in fuel, increases in material, inflation, increases in the cost of living, which means that our staff, the cost of their living has gone up. If the price of milk goes up, then the price per hour that our techs are paid needs to go up in order to compensate for that, to provide everybody with the same dignified wage they've been earning. So we all know the macroeconomic factors that have been since the pandemic that have been stirring things up around the world. But I think that where other people see fear and other people see difficulties, I see opportunity. Because anytime change is taking place, there's an opportunity to do something new or to do something different or to do something better. And at the end of the day, necessity is the mother of invention. And so, for example, fuel prices, take that for instance. We have been, our little company here, we burn about 400 gallons of diesel a day. And that to me is just that's something that just it almost keeps me up at night, that weighs on my conscience. But we are just a small feeder fish in the world of logistical transportation. So if you compare us to FedEx or UPS or any one of these other actual huge companies that have jets and have fleets of trucks around the country, just the amount of fuel that they're burning every day is insane. So one way that I've tried to create a win-win situation for that is I've very closely been following the technology for electric vehicles. And for the consumer market, electric vehicles have been available for a long time. It is just now getting to the point where the technology is available for commercial vehicles. So when I saw the opportunity a few months ago to be able to invest in an entire wing of our fleet to become electric, I jumped at it. So now Hangman this summer is introducing a new fleet of completely electric vehicles that not only is going to be good for the environment, but is going to save money on fuel, which those savings we're able to pass on to our customers. So it's a win-win for everybody because our techs they feel proud to be driving an electric vehicle. They feel good about the environment, and we feel good that we're able to just plug it in at night. We don't have to go and pay the outrageous prices for gas that we're seeing all over the country. So, that's one super practical example about taking advantage of new technologies that are coming out in order to create savings that we can pass along to the customer. That's one small thing that's in our control. But in general, I think the most cost-saving thing that a company like ours can do is create efficiency internally so that the time that we have at work every day, which everybody only has, a certain amount of hours that they can be at work, that time is mostly spent face-to-face talking with clients, understanding them, really working with face-to-face human interactions instead of spending the time on the back end, having to do redundant paperwork. And we've worked very hard to create different types of systems using software, we're using resources and using people in order to create efficiencies such that we are able to make sure that our clients feel like they are paying a proper wage for the services that we provide. And I think that's probably the highest determinant factor of whether or not a job is going to book at our company. So, so we don't like prices going up as much as customers don't like prices going up, because when prices go up, people are less likely to book jobs or less likely to want to buy a piece, or something like that. So, so it's good for everybody, the lower the overhead, including us.
Yeah, and we've also really tried to make an effort to come up with new, clever, creative ways to consolidate and offer really excellent, really unparalleled, frankly, value to customers. We have two really cool initiatives going on right now. We just introduced our Hamptons Mondays initiative, which is where seasonally we send a consolidated shuttle out each week. We often work with clients and their advisors to come up with timelines that enable them to be happy, whether it be that same week or in a couple of Mondays. And by consolidating, we're able to drive our rates, really, really low and offer that same quality of service at an optimized rate. We've also introduced the same program in South Florida, which we call Local Wednesdays. So yeah, we're always looking for new ways to try to use our expertise to pass those savings along.
And speaking of price variance for shipping, when I help my clients buy works from galleries, for example, I actually, just through my experiences, have a really good idea as to which shippers offer the best prices on different routes across the country. But sometimes if collectors ask galleries to help with shipping quotes, they might just share 3 or 4 quotes and not take into consideration which shippers may be better for which routes. And so as a result, you'll see an incredible price variance, sometimes by thousands of dollars, to ship the same artwork from point A to point B using different shippers. Can you explain why we observe this wide range in shipping quotes?
Well, I think there's a lot of different answers to that question. One, I think, would certainly be inefficiencies between different shipping companies and what they're able to provide and the cost to them, in terms of what the back end looks like for them. I mean, I can't speak to other companies, but I can say that Hangman has been growing incredibly fast over the last years. And the reason for that, we're not really motivated by ambition as we are motivated by the desire to provide properly for our clients and for our staff. And for us, that's meant, at least initially, setting up locations in New York, Los Angeles, and Miami in order to be able to do that properly. Because without boots on the ground there and without warehouses in these cities, we wouldn't be able to say yes as easily to a lot of the jobs that we're able to do. And I think that trend is only going to continue in terms of the more resources that you have, the easier it is to say yes. And eventually you reach a point of economies of scale whereby the price for you to do something goes down lower and lower, and you're able to provide, to pass those savings along to clients. So, as you said, I think a lot of it is knowing what routes different companies have, and if they're along that route, or what different strategies companies have for consolidating or not consolidating. I think the biggest shock probably is when someone wants, say, they need something in Aspen and they need it there in like 2 weeks. And we say, okay, well, this is going to be a dedicated quote, so it's going to be expensive because it's going to be one vehicle with this one piece in it. And we're going to drive it out and it's going to be covered. And that's, no matter how you cut it, that's going to be an expensive job. But I think generally my advice for your listeners and for collectors when it comes to shipping is that patience is really key. If you're willing to be patient and you've got the time, someone is going to be able to get it on a truck where it's more convenient than another time. But generally, as it works in a lot of industries, the sooner you need it there, the more expensive it's going to be. So I would encourage patience whenever available, because that's usually what's going to wind up allowing you to have the best deal.
Yeah, and to elaborate on what David's saying, and I like to think I really understand this from both sides of the coin. Prior to working at Hangman, I was a collection manager for 5 years, so I totally get having the template, reaching out, hoping you get it. You do a little hope, do your rain dance and just pray that somebody gives you a good rate. And so we really get it. Most of our team has been on the gallery side of things or the private collecting side of things. We're really aware of that. So we made a point to develop our estimating and quoting system to be entirely, or really like, let's say 90% formulaic. That means we're taking metrics of the artwork, knowledge about our routes, again, using our software and our expertise to determine something that is primarily consistent across time and across en route locations. That means you can reach out to us now with a, let's say a 48 by 48 in a shadow box. You reach out in 3 months, it's still en route, even the same location, you will, I can almost guarantee it, get that same great rate. Now, of course, there is some variance that comes in. This is fine art. Lots of things have different needs, both in terms of conservation and storage, as well as presentation. And that's really where we are really fortunate to have an excellent customer experience team who collectively possess decades of experience in this field. So those little things about, is there great access? Is there, have we worked with works by an artist from this gallery before? We often know those little tips and tricks and pitfalls. So that's where, you might see some little fluctuation, but we really pride ourselves on being consistent in our pricing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. We really, one thing that does frustrate clients a lot, like back in the old days, if, they would reach out and they get one quote from us, they do a shipment, then reach out again 6 months later and get a different price for something that was pretty much exactly the same. And so we worked really hard to create, formulas and systems on our back end that create for a certain amount of consistency, because you got to think of every shipment that you've got some static and you've got some variable. Static is that it's got to get picked up from one place and it's got to get delivered to one place. So whether that thing is the size of a cue ball or whether the size of an elephant, it's got to stop someplace to pick it up and the truck's got to go someplace to deliver it. So those stops you can't change, but then the kind of the in between is the size and the weight, and any special kind of out of the ordinary handling that goes into it. So, yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. And where, again, it's like, I feel so lucky to work for somebody who's as passionate about innovation as David, is that like something I was really proud to introduce this summer is we've introduced all these cool new tools to really precisely account for mapping and traffic and transportation into all of these quotes. So we're really presenting you with a holistic picture every time you get a quote.
Yeah.
There's a lot that happens. I like to say there's a lot of magic that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, because, it's important for us to get it right too, because there's times where we haven't gotten it right and that, that doesn't work for us either. But, that's on us. That's our job to make sure that we have the experience, the knowledge to be able to make sure we make an informed decision for the client, for it to be in the right place. And, I think we do a good job.
We certainly strive for excellence. And, as David pointed out a little earlier, what keeps us up is those cases where a client was anything less than perfectly satisfied. That really ultimately is our barometer of success. Everything is second for us to the happiness of the customer. The simpler, more consistent, and more invisible we can make all of the crazy and complex things we do, the happier we are.
Yeah.
And hopefully so is the client.
Well, we really appreciate having you on the podcast, and we hope you can share some advice now for our listeners so they can make better decisions when it comes to their fine art shipping. So based on your expertise, what would you say are some of the most common mistakes collectors may make when it comes to shipping that could increase the likelihood of transport issues?
Man, well, how much time do you have? Yes,
I'm sure. Well, that's why it's so great to have you here, because a lot of collectors will ask me for advice, whether they're my clients or not, will ask me certain questions about how to ship certain things or different shippers to use or how to just do certain things relating to logistics. And while I'm happy to always offer my advice, you're the experts. You're the ones that do this for a living, do it day in, day out. So I think it's really valuable to have you here to help us alleviate some mistakes that our listeners may make regularly.
Right. Well, okay. Well, the big one is that everywhere in the world, there's a man with a van, and you're going to be tempted to hire that man with a van because he's going to do it a fraction of the cost of what Hangman quotes, a fraction of the cost of what anybody else quotes. And, you might go with that man with a van and it could be fine. It could work out great. You have but we've seen, and I encourage everybody to go with the man with the van, like if you're really tempted to go with it.
No, don't go with the man in the van. I've seen how that
because
story
maybe
ends.
Nothing goes wrong, but if something does go wrong, it's really, It's really bad in all fronts. No, but in all serious, that's one mistake. Don't go with the man with the van. Things get broken. There's no insurance. There's no accountability. Also, it's like you really got to understand from a collector's perspective or from a gallery's perspective is everybody specializes, right? Like your job, if you're a gallery, you need to be cultivating your relationships with your collectors. You need to be throwing events. You need to be working with your artists. That's where your focus is. The amount of time that you spend on doing these logistical things needs to be the smallest slice of your pie chart as possible. And that's where Hangman comes in. And that's where we really help you to succeed, because you don't have to think about anything when you work with us. Our team is so good. We're so prepared. We do this day in, day out that, okay, the man with the van might be cheaper, but you work with us and you're not going to have to deal with any headaches. That's going to take away from your time, which should be spent dealing with your artists and dealing with your collectors. Now, when it comes to, if we're all on the same page about that, when it comes to, so if you're past the man with the van thing, when it comes to mistakes that clients actually make, time is everything, So the more organized that you can be when it comes to preparing for whatever kind of shipment, the more information you can give us. And you wouldn't believe, people from the outside don't believe the amount of data and the amount of detail that goes into even the simplest shipment that we do. And I'm talking about starting with just like having basically, is the paint dry? That's like, a big one. Like there's been a lot of times we show up to artist galleries, the paint is still wet, we can't even move it. How big are the pieces? What the access is like? Are they going to be packed on site? No, wait, are they really going to be packed when they show up? Are all of them going to be packed? I don't mean are 8 of 12 of them going to be packed. Are all 12 of them going to be packed? Because you can't just say to our crew when you're there that we need to pack 4 big pieces for you, because because we're trying to be as efficient as possible and we're trying to get the lowest prices that we can to all of our clients. We have 4 more stops after you. And if we stop to wrap these 4 paintings that you didn't tell us we're going to be naked when we arrived, that's going to be unfair to the clients after you, and it's going to create a difficult situation for anybody. So the easier that you make it for us to do our job, the more chances of success you're going to have on your own. Now, that being said, for our office staff, the most training and time that we put in is to this delicate process of extracting information from clients, because it's more difficult than it sounds. Because if you don't do this every day like we do, you might not take into consideration the fact that you don't know how that sculpture got into the building because you moved in and it was already there, and you didn't know that they craned that in through a window on the roof, and you have no idea that it doesn't fit into the elevator, or that they did a renovation in the building and now the size of the elevator is different. Maybe it came up the stairs, but maybe the stairs are different, whatever, all the details. Like the devil is really in the details when it comes to that. Are there loading dock hours? Does the building allow you in during certain times? Like, is there anything fragile in there, or we need to know about it? Did you have it packed professionally? Did someone do it? I mean, the more details, the better. And when you work with us, like, you don't really have to think about that stuff because our team is trained and has so much experience to be able to get that information from you. But we're going to think about all those questions that you might not be thinking of. And to be fair, it's not your job to think of those things. It's our job to think of those things. So, if we show up and the artwork doesn't fit into the elevator, that's not your problem when you work with us. That's our problem for not asking you how big the elevator was. And trust me, we will ask you how big the elevator is. We will ask you the hours to show up, because we've done all that before. We've been through all that. And that's why you work with a company like us, because you don't want to spend your time getting a phone call in the morning 10 minutes before you're supposed to meet with an important client about how the artwork is stuck in the elevator. It's your job to be focusing on what you do best, and it's our job for us to be focusing on what we do best.
Something else that I think is again, as we talk about consolidation and trying to keep costs low, this one's not so much a mistake, but really an area of opportunity for greater savings and customer satisfaction, is tell us things as far in advance as possible. Give us as much lead time as you can. If you know your gallery, it has a changeover every 8 to 12 weeks, reach out and say, hey, we're going to have between 10 and 15 paintings. They're all going to need to be shadow boxed. I think they're going to be about 48 by 48. We know the artist is in Memphis. We know our gallery's in Los Angeles. Can you just make sure you have room for us? How much do you think this will be approximately? The more lead time you can give us, the better we can consolidate and plan around your project and try to take on and give competitive rates to other people going to the same area. That whole, really, really optimizing and maximizing what we can do for you.
And to that point, I think also an important thing to notice, I spoke earlier about the importance of relationships at our company. And I think that door swings both ways. Like, feel free to lean into your relationship with us, because we are here to work with you and we see the value of those relationships over time. We have people that we started working with, when we had 2 people working in the company that are still clients of ours, so people like that, when we have this relationship, we're able to do things for you, that not everything is so black and white, in our industry, and you can really, like, if we have a relationship, a lot more is possible. So I would say another thing to, avoid, another thing that would help put the odds of success in your favor is, work with us, let us know, like, work with us. Every time that you have a shipment, let us get to know you. Let us get to know your team. And the consistency is going to actually allow you to succeed more in the future because, you can tell us, you can be like, look, I got a man with a van who has a quote for this, or I'm getting another quote that's a little bit lower. And you can work with us in whatever ways that are possible, because if we have the consistency and we know your artists and we know your work, it's going to make everything that much easier in the future. So the relationship, as much as we try to go out of our way to build relationships, and actually we're doing a lot of fun stuff in terms of relationship building. We're throwing we got some really cool events that we're throwing, and we're planning some stuff for Basel this year and everything. But I would say, feel free to realize, like, we're all people, here, at the end of the day in this industry, and we're here to help everybody. So, I guess the easier that you make it for us to help you, the more help that you're going to get for us. So,
and the one concrete tip I'll leave you with is we love inventory numbers. You give us an inventory number, we're happy campers, especially in the case of, artists who are particularly prolific in making untitled works. If you as a gallery or even as a private collector have an inventory number, that keeps things so smooth for us. And like David was saying too, at the same time, working with us with lots of shipments and over time, you get that benefit of being able to say, hey, you remember last February when that man with the van dropped off all those grades and his paperwork wasn't very good, so you guys deconsolidated and there was like that red one next to the blue one? Our sales team is going to go, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know where that's stored. I remember where we shipped it. I remember that day. I have fantastic notes. And it makes it just that much easier. That much more seamless.
Another fun one is when the gallery decides to change the names of the paintings that an artist has made,
which happens all the time.
8 months later, and not tell us. And then they're like, what do you mean you can't find, yellow tulip, and we're like, we're not seeing yellow tulip. And then it turns out it's called blue tulip before that or something.
And again, we love inventory numbers. Nothing makes us happier than a good, consistent inventory number.
And I guess to take this even further, I really believe strongly in the concept of specialization because, you got to be putting all of your effort and all of your time to succeeding, in your gallery or whatever it is you're working on. And I think that, we all, at the end of the day, we all have limited time. And so I think the more that you can outsource in your business or personal life to a company like ours, because if we're able to combine doing your transportation with doing storage for you, you're going to find that you save yourself a lot of time. And because we don't just offer physical space for the storage that we do, we actually offer a whole system of 360 record keeping, organization, and transportation. So it's just a way to make your life easier, I guess. So I guess in short, my answer is just come to us, and the way to succeed is to come to Hangman with your problems and let us help.
And we will be as painless as possible in getting all the details.
You touched on storage there. I did want to ask you about that, as that is a service you offer. Have you seen this part of your business grow in the past few years as collectors have acquired a lot more art recently? And do you expect storage growth to continue in the future, really across the art industry?
Well, it's like this. Every day, artists are painting paintings around the world. And as far as I know, people aren't throwing away paintings every day. I don't really see that happening unless we all get together and we make some kind of rule for artists. And it's like, all right, you get 100 paintings. If you paint 101, you got to throw one away. Until that happens, there's going to be the need for storage because I mean, to be serious, it's an asset class that is physical, and every day we're creating more of it. Every day, artists are out there being encouraged to paint more. Every year, more graduates are coming out of the schools. They're painting. They're working hard. I mean, I think this is the coolest time to be alive for artists right now. The kind of visibility you have, and I know so many artists who are emerging that are doing such great work that as they paint, the art needs some place to live and for its longevity, to stay safe, to stay guarded, and to be there for the future whenever it's ready to go on the wall. So yeah, we've seen this part of our business grow a lot. And there are some really exciting things that we have coming down the line in the future that we are going to offer our clients in terms of coming up with better solutions for storage and better ways for people to manage their collections. And those announcements are going to be coming out later in the year. I think that it's something that's necessary. I think there's room for improvement in the way that we do it now. And I think that maybe if everybody listening now bought more paintings, we would have less in storage and it wouldn't be as much of a problem.
And going off of what David said too, this has been a really exciting area of growth for us. As you both touched on, the fact of the matter is art is evolving as an asset class. It's being treated in a way and considered in a way that, historically, and I mean, the really grand sweep of art history, we're going back over 1,000 years in a new and novel way. And that requires higher end, more specialized service. The self-storage by the man with the van in the back of, the lot by the highway is no longer going to cut it. Your insurance policy is not going to cover any damage that happens at that facility. It's just the fact of the matter. So you have to be really strategic. And, we specialize, and the vast majority of our storage here is concierge style. So that means we are looking at the size, the material needs, the materiality of each work, deciding what should go together, what makes most sense in the same location, what requires certain temperatures and humidities, and making educated choices based on that. This is a little different than, something that's become popular in the last few years at certain facilities is doing a private room just for yourself, which they make sound like the best experience and most cost effective. You come in, you pull it. But unfortunately, what our customers have told us and what we've seen is that it's really not that efficient. You end up paying for all this dead space. You're paying for the space of the racks. You're paying for your walkways. You're paying for anything you put in there that's not art. We are only charging you specifically and really only ever for the exact volume you are requiring in our facility. So in that way, you get just savings beyond something possible in a storage, a private storage situation. And I like to say that storing with Hangman is really the cheat code to the Hangman experience. As we've talked to and alluded to, you get the benefit of building those relationships with a salesperson who treats you truly like family. And I really mean that. And you also get discounted rates on transportation between our facilities. We'll often give you extended, temporary storage if needed. You get priority local access. So there's a lot of benefits. And as we've grown this tri-coastal network, it means that whether you're a Hamptons in the summer kind of person, you love the Miami fairs, or heck, you just love the bi-coastal or even tri-coastal lifestyle, we've got you covered. You're going to get that same great rate every facility at unbeatable discounted transfers and get that Hangman experience that our customers know and love.
Well, I'll jump in again about like what Ty's saying about clients that have their own private rooms. And in theory, it's sounding like it's a great solution. I've been to a lot of these private client rooms, and invariably they're a nightmare. I mean, because it's not just the space that you're paying for, it's the organization of it. And when you don't have a strong system in place, it becomes something where different people are going in and out. You've got the registrar going there to pull something. You have the intern there to pull something. You've got, different, an art handler goes, and then suddenly like the entire place is a mess. And again, just back to my philosophy. I mean, maybe people think about it different, but I really think the more that you outsource and the more that you specialize in your business, the more time that you're going to have to focus on what's going to matter to you. So yeah, when it comes to storage, I guess, I should also kind of pitch our we built a proprietary software to manage everyone's collections, and you've got an insight. You've got a client portal when you work with us that I haven't seen anywhere else existing, where you've got a way to actually see a scan trail and paper trail and photo trail of every movement that your pieces make. So essentially it's a hyper organized view anywhere you want into your collection without having to go to a storage space and get your hands dirty and deal with it. And then anytime you need anything, you just speak to your client relationship manager, your client experience manager, and they organize the details to have it sent to you. And I think this all comes down to the initial statement that we made at the top of the show, which is to be the change that we hope to see in the world. And when I think about my definition of luxury, whether it's in fine art or at a hotel or a restaurant, it's someone who has done the work to think of the thing that you're about to think of before you've thought of it, and have that thing there and ready for you. And that just makes me feel like really it's a luxurious feeling for me. So that's my definition, and that's what we strive to do here for everybody. And that's why we've got this suite of services that when you combine them, the most powerful way is to take the 360 approach and combine them all together. And that's where you're going to see the most benefit. But we're here for everybody, for whatever parts that you might need on your own, or whatever parts that can benefit you. We're here to provide those as well.
And ultimately, at the end of the day, we are flexible, and we want to provide you with exactly what you're looking for. If and that's actually led us to increase our services lately. So we have a new service where we've actually introduced a viewing room in Los Angeles, which has been really rewarding. And we continue to offer new and innovative services. As David alluded to, we have some very exciting announcements coming up with Los Angeles soon. So keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah. That's another part of it. The viewing rooms. I forgot to even mention that. It's all part of our philosophy, which is we're here to help, in a 360-degree way in whatever that collectors or galleries can need, that we can help provide, make it easier and seamless, and back to it being fun and it being a good experience. So we have all these things in order to make people's life easier and to feel like they're getting this incredibly positive experience that allows them to focus on the parts of it that are fun, and to really, go back to what it is that we're all here for, which is the mystery of these wonderful things that we enjoy looking at.
David and Ty, thanks so much again for coming onto the podcast and sharing more about Hangman and the services you offer, as well as providing your unique perspective on the fine art shipping space, and for sharing some advice with us about shipping. If our listeners want to learn more about Hangman, what's the best way to get in touch?
We love email. We'll talk to you on the phone. We'd love to chat on the phone, but we'd rather just hang out and talk on the phone and catch up and chit chat. But we can talk you through anything, but sending an email is the best way. You can get our contact information for your location by area if you go to our website, which is www.hangmannyc.com. I guess, people always ask about the NYC because we never thought we were going to expand outside of New York. So it's funny because we're Hangman NYC, but we're all across the country now. So if I had a magic wand, I would undo that and make it something else. But we've got locations everywhere. Go to our website, check it out. We're also on Instagram. You can follow us there. You can send me an email, david@hangmannyc.com, or Zoe, ZOE@hangmannyc.com. She's our head of sales. We're happy. Thanks for having us on the show.
We're delighted to get to chat with you. And I really do hope that your listeners have found this enlightening, or at least enjoyable. I know coming into this industry, there were so many new things to learn that it really elucidated what the art world actually means practically as a business. And I hope we've shared a little glimmer of that.
Yeah. And I guess I don't want to out you as this being an inside job or anything, but Adam's a client too. I mean, so, this is part, I mean, you're at least at least you're eating in your own restaurant. You're a cook who likes his own food as well, to a certain degree, and so I appreciate that. And, and it's always a pleasure working with you.
Yeah, we are big.
Of course. Well, I really appreciate Hangman and the services you offer, and the pricing is usually very hard to beat. So you're doing a great job, and congrats on your growth. David and Ty, thanks so much again for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam.
Have a good one.